The first thing we do is find Myles Garrett. Then came the nightmare. Aaron Donald may return. One defender already forces offenses to rewrite everything. Now imagine two monsters attacking the same pocket.
Absolutely patently false. That is not true. It was never to this level. These expectations. I will remind you. You had some people had the Rams as favorites before Myles Garrett arrived.
That's right.
Then Myles Garrett arrived, and you had them as favorites. Now Aaron Donald likely is coming back. What the hell we backtracking for? It doesn't make sense, CC. No. I mean, listen. And by the way, if we're keeping it a buck, well, let me just tell myself I can't speak for everybody. I can't speak for everybody. But you know, there are games that take place before the Super Bowl. And you want to be in certain places. I'd rather be in L.A. than Seattle. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I'd rather be in L.A.
Now the
Seattle.
truth comes out.
My social life matters, damn it. And I'd rather be near SoFi Stadium than up in the Pacific Northwest, 2 hours from Portland or Vancouver. Nah, that is not my preference.
But that confidence is exactly where the story gets dangerous. Because behind the Rams' massive expectations, something even more explosive was quietly developing.
We love you. We didn't bring you in just to do trivia, though. You are camping, and you were with the Rams yesterday on your annual camping trip.
Yeah.
Sean McVay said over the weekend that he doesn't expect Aaron Donald to decide about coming out of retirement until after the team returns to the facility on August 8th. But McVay noted that things are going in the right direction. What do you got as far as Aaron Donald watch goes?
Yeah, I asked their GM, Les Snead, what he knows, and he said, I don't know. He said, I know he's ramped up his workouts, like he's doing more back-to-back days, higher intensity workouts, because he's putting his body through this whole, and his mind, I guess, through this whole trial phase of, do I want to do this? Can I not only get through another NFL season, but do it at the level that I, Aaron Donald, am accustomed to? The way Les put it was, he said, whatever his Madden rating was when he left, he wants that to be the same when he comes back. So he wants to be sure that he's not just, coming back to ride Myles Garrett's coattails. He wants to be Aaron Donald and have an impact. They don't know what he's going to do. They sound optimistic. The players I talked to are all fired up about it. A couple of them have been hitting him up with texts and all that. But they did underline a couple of times, look, if he doesn't come back, we still feel pretty darn good about this defense.
Now we're getting to August, and he's still not there. What are you hearing as Dan is reporting on the ground?
Well, this is exactly what I think we've expected all along, in the fact that Aaron Donald wasn't rushing back. He's taking his time to ramp up. But I go back to a couple of things. Number one, Sean McVay on Friday night saying that it's going in the right direction and trending upward. I don't think the head coach of the Rams says it's trending in the right direction and trending upward without having some sort of idea that he feels good about the potential return of Aaron Donald. The other thing that I hear when Dan says he's ramping up his workouts, do you think some 36, 37-year-old guy in the heat of summer is ramping up his workouts for the fun of it? Just to go through this exercise? Like, if he's ramping up his workouts,
He does like working out.
If he's ramping up his workouts and the head coach says it's trending upward, 1 + 1 usually equals 2. Usually. It doesn't always, but more often than not, it does.
And it's for a veteran that has tons of equity like Aaron Donald does. And by the way, if Aaron Donald comes back, we're going to be talking about one of the most historic off seasons of all time when you think about Aaron Donald, Myles Garrett, arguably the best corner in Trent McDuffie. And, oh, by the way, if they hit on Ty Simpson, this will go down.
Jalen Watson.
And Jalen Watson. Corner. This will go down as one of the greatest off seasons ever.
J-Mac, I think it's almost like we're just assuming that this Rams team is going to cruise along. Try to poke a hole in it. Is there anything that you would look at on this team and say, hey, wait, slow down. There are some potential shortcomings for this team before you just put them in the Super Bowl in L.A.?
I mean, you can find things. You can look at the age. You can look at Matthew Stafford and say, all right, he was an MVP candidate. At his age, he got drafted with me. I've been sitting at these desks for 5 years now. So you can say, all right, he needs to stay healthy. Devontae Adams went through some injuries. But when you start doing that, you can say that for the 31 other teams as well. If they have injuries at major positions, their linebacker spot is probably the most questionable part on defense. But this team is really good. Like, you can find anything you want. And yes, you have to go out there and do it. But the addition of a guy like Aaron Donald on an already stacked team is just unbelievable. Dominique Foxworth said this. As soon as Aaron Donald starts entertaining putting on a helmet, like, you're coming back. Like, no, once we're done, no one's just putting on a helmet to go play some pickup football somewhere.
We were there all day yesterday. What do you think?
After practice, I talked to Kevin Dotson, one of their offensive linemen. I said, what's it like practicing against Myles Garrett? He said, as soon as we turn around after breaking the huddle, the first thing everybody does is find out where that guy is. Because if you can't figure that out, you can't figure out any of the rest of these things. He said, there's not many players in the league where you say, we're going to change our offense just to block this one guy. And I said, give me an example of another player like that. And he said, Aaron Donald.
Yeah. Graz, you're going to be in LA with the Chargers today. I expect a full Mike McDaniel imitation tomorrow on the show. Get on that. I need that.
All right. I'll work on that.
Adam, you got one more note?
I was on the phone with the Rams this weekend. I always like to say, what's standing out of camp? And the first thing that came out of somebody's mouth was, Myles Garrett is even better than we thought. Yeah. Now, that was prior to his lower half body soreness, but still, he was more impressive than they thought.
Newsflash, the Rams are going to be awesome this year.
The Los Angeles Rams may have just crossed the line from Super Bowl contender to something far more dangerous. Myles Garrett is already terrifying. Trent McDuffie is now in the picture. Jalen Watson adds another weapon in the secondary. And now Aaron Donald, the greatest defensive tackle of his generation, is seriously considering putting the helmet back on. Think about what that means. A quarterback could survive one elite pass rusher, maybe two. But what happens when the offense has to identify Myles Garrett and Aaron Donald on the same defense? That isn't just a difficult matchup. That is a weekly survival test. And here's where the debate gets heated. Some analysts are already acting like the Rams are automatically headed for the Super Bowl. Others are saying, slow down, because the Rams haven't won anything yet. And that brings us to the question nobody can answer yet, because the most terrifying weapon on this roster still hasn't made his decision. Sean McVay has made it clear that Aaron Donald isn't rushing this decision. The Rams were waiting for him to ramp up his preparation, and Donald has reportedly increased the intensity of his workouts, including more back-to-back training days. That's important, because this isn't about whether Aaron Donald wants to return. It's about whether he believes his body can survive another NFL season at Aaron Donald's standard. And according to the reporting surrounding the Rams, Donald doesn't want to come back as some ceremonial legend standing next to Myles Garrett. He wants to come back as Aaron Donald, the same player who terrorized offensive lines for years. The same player who built a Hall of Fame resume before stepping away. The same player who apparently wants his performance level to match the version of himself that left the league. That's why this decision is so fascinating. Because if Donald comes back at anything close to his old level, the Rams aren't simply adding depth. They're adding another player who forces an offense to redesign its entire protection plan. And the players know it. But here's the twist. Even if Donald never returns, Los Angeles may already have enough firepower to make offenses miserable. Ask Rams offensive linemen what it's like to practice against Myles Garrett, and you start to understand just how absurd this defense could become. Kevin Dotson was asked what happens when the Rams break the huddle. His answer was essentially terrifying. The first thing everyone does is find Myles Garrett. Because if you don't know where Garrett is, you can't properly organize anything else. Think about that. An entire offense changing its priorities because of one defender. And when Dotson was asked who else creates that kind of problem, the answer was immediate. Aaron Donald. That tells you everything. And it gets even more interesting. People inside the Rams organization reportedly came away from camp saying something even more aggressive. Myles Garrett was better than they expected. That was before his reported lower half soreness became a talking point. So now imagine the nightmare scenario. Garrett lines up on one side. Donald lines up inside. The quarterback takes the snap. The pocket collapses before the route even develops, and that's why the Rams' hype isn't coming from nowhere. But it also creates the biggest problem with this entire conversation, because here's the uncomfortable truth. The Rams still have to play football. Matthew Stafford has to stay healthy.
The roster has veterans whose age matters. Devontae Adams has dealt with injuries.
And the defense still has questions, particularly at linebacker.
That matters.
Because the fastest way for a Super Bowl dream to collapse isn't always a lack of talent. Sometimes it's health. Sometimes it's depth. Sometimes it's one bad matchup at exactly the wrong time. And this is where the critics have a legitimate argument. You can build the most terrifying defense in the NFL on paper, but paper doesn't tackle quarterbacks. Paper doesn't survive December. And paper definitely doesn't win the Super Bowl. But here's where the Rams supporters fire back. Every team has those problems. Every contender has injury concerns. Every contender has a weakness. The difference is that very few teams can point to a defensive front this talented and say, "Go ahead, try to attack us." And that brings us back to the argument that started all of this. Because apparently, the Rams were already dangerous before Donald even entered the conversation. This is where the debate gets explosive. Some people were already picking the Rams as Super Bowl favorites before Myles Garrett arrived. Then Garrett arrived, and suddenly those expectations became even bigger. Now Aaron Donald is potentially coming back. So the question becomes, how much higher are we supposed to raise the bar? That's the absurd part. The Rams aren't suddenly being treated like contenders because Aaron Donald might return. They were already being treated like contenders. Donald would simply push an already massive expectation into another dimension. And that's why the confidence surrounding Los Angeles is dangerous. Because when expectations reach this level, anything short of a deep playoff run becomes a failure. The Rams aren't just being asked to be good. They're being asked to dominate. They're being asked to justify the hype. And they're being asked to do it under the brightest possible spotlight. But there is one more layer to this story, because behind all the football arguments is a simple reality. The Rams believe they have built something special. Look at the offseason. Myles Garrett, Trent McDuffie, Jalen Watson, and potentially Aaron Donald. If those pieces... Thank you for watching Sport Current. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and share this video to support the channel. Turn on notifications so you never miss the latest NFL and WNBA news, breaking stories, game updates, trades, and the biggest moments in American sports. Stay tuned for more updates, and we'll see you in the next video, right here on Sport Current.